expensive.
Hopefully one day I could get my own studio. Like, that'd be the
That'd be
dream.
cool. Or like another part of your house that's a studio.
Yeah, because then I'd be like, yo, mama, I fucking made it.
Mom, look at these pads on my wall. They were $100 a pad.
Your mom's like, what do you use those for? Noise. So my neighbors don't hear me. I just scream in here.
So the grandma. It's my padded cell. The grandmas don't know what's going on.
Dude, I'll have to show you when we walk out, but in the living room, like between the chair and the couch, there's like a little cubby hole that you can pull open with a door. It's for storage. And so, like, one of the first nights I was in here.
Jacob told me.
Oh, he did?
It's like connected or something.
It's not connected.
Or like you put boxes in it.
Yeah. But when I was with Harley, she was like, oh, so that old grandma with dementia's gonna crawl through there. I'm like, why the fuck would you say that? I'm like, dude, now she's gonna haunt my dreams. She's gonna crawl into my dreams. I'm gonna have to get like 4 dream catchers in all corners of my room so like grandma can't get through.
One in a pentagon shape. What's it, do you watch horror movies?
Haven't in a while, but I really like scary movies.
That, like, the idea of somebody like crawling through that would be terrifying. You know what I'm talking about? Like The Grudge.
Yeah. Wasn't the reason of dream catchers is to like catch the negative spirits?
I just thought it was nice.
I don't know.
Something like that. It's supposed to catch.
But what if your subconscious needs to get that out?
Tell the Indians.
I don't know. I mean, they're very spiritual creatures. All right, so really, like, the purpose of this podcast is for a school project of mine, and we were tasked with getting a college student, not from Simpson, and asking them what their experience is like with now COVID. This is Mikaela Ozella.
Hello.
Hello, Mikaela.
Hello.
So, let's just start off there. What has your experience been like now that we have like all these COVID procedures? You're not in person. Simpson is still in person.
Yeah.
DMACC is not.
So DMACC is starting today. I think I should preface by saying what I'm becoming, like what I'm getting. I have, right now my goal is to get an associative degree of liberal arts with a concentration in biotechnology. And biotechnology is essentially biology mixed with technology, like lab work is like how I describe it. So obviously you can tell my classes are very, very focused, especially now because I only have 2 semesters left on science and labs. So right now DMACC is doing, I have 2 labs a week, one is every other, I don't know about the other one, and you go into DMACC for a few hours. Mask is required. We have to social distance. I'm sure that we will have to do things on our own, which is curious to me because I know that biology you do dissections, in chemistry you do titrations, which is just essentially like an experiment to, I can't really remember. Essentially, like, you put stuff in and like a chemical turns it pink, but you work with other people to do it. And so I'm like, it's gonna be interesting, but I will say next semester I'm hopeful that COVID calms down, or at least society believes it's calmed down, because I have internship and I have 2 only lab classes. I have like 2 classes, they're like split into the semester that go back and forth, that are just learning how to use lab equipment that I will be using in the field. So
you pretty much need to be in person.
I have to be.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to go into an internship, and I'm nervous that internships will not be what I, like, as hands-on as I want them to be, or they'll be different. So I've been considering waiting a semester, but at the same time, I really would like to get into the work field. So my experience so far has been, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that everything will be okay, but I've told myself to be in the mindset that to be prepared to be adaptable. Because I believe that based on what's been going on with other universities and how people have already had COVID cases, like U of I had like 1 in the first day.
Simpson,
and I'm trying to just be ready to adapt to any situation that comes.
Do you find it more challenging with how school's operating now with COVID, or was it more challenging when it was in person? And like, have the assignments changed? I know that for Simpson, we went to the online format from March to April when the whole COVID thing hit. I got through it, but I didn't really like it. I didn't like being online. It was easier. Like, I think they made it more accessible for students, and that was cool. So it's kind of like, if we have to go through this again, we can handle it.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you find it more challenging now, or? when it was like in person?
Last semester I found it very challenging because they transitioned from all in person to online. In one of my classes it didn't even work for chemistry 1, which is why I don't remember what titrations are off the top of my head because we didn't learn about them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a very bad professor in that and online, and then the other one was fine, I guess. I prefer in-person classes. I prefer being able to berate the professor with my questions after class because I'm very shy in class to ask questions. I don't like asking a lot of questions. I don't like bringing the attention to myself. So if I can just go talk to the professor after, I prefer that. And I also think that with the sciences, it is so much harder to learn science when you are not applying it directly to your lab all the time, or if you're by yourself. Like I don't know, and I think it's so distracting to be at home. You know, you have a laptop right there. I have my phone all the time. Like I'm always on the internet, and now I have to be on the internet, right? And so Facebook is literally all you have to do is put in the search bar FA and Facebook comes up, and then you're on Facebook right away. So I don't like that for myself. I'm trying to be accountable, but I am worried about getting distracted easily.
Yeah, searching for those instant gratification markers, which sucks. Yeah, I don't like having a Mac because it's in sync with my phone, so you get the messages that pop up and you're like, oh, well, and then you go respond to that person, and then you're like, oh, well, hey, let's go to YouTube, see how many subscribers I got, you know, shit like that.
Where's my Instagram at? But my Messenger, like my Facebook is connected to my laptop. So every time my lovely boyfriend texts me, it goes ding, ding, like on my phone, and then on my phone, and on my computer, and I'm like, just like switch. And I will say I am not a student that has to study that much compared to other students. I love science, it does come quite easily to me. But there are subjects, like especially with chemistry when math is involved, that I have to be focused and I have to learn it because math does not come as easily to me. So when applying the two things, I need to be able to study and focus, and I just don't know if I'll be able to do that in my room.
Yeah.
Because I live with my parents, which is fine for a college student, but my dad is a lot Italian, my mom is almost deaf, so she talks very loud. So it's very hard for me to study, even if my door is closed, because they listen to TV very loud, they talk very loud. So I am nervous about this semester.
So, but when you were going to DMACC in person, you did live up there for a little bit, but not this last semester. So how would you study? Would you stay on campus afterwards and study?
I made sure last semester that I had about a 4-hour, which I know sounds crazy to some people, I had a 4 to 5 hour waiting period between classes. And that's when I would study, because I just didn't get as distracted. I could be by myself. It was really helpful for me. And I really liked it, but then obviously it got cut off by COVID. And I think that's how I prefer to study, is not at home. But I think I can adapt. And if anything, I think the library is still open if I need to go there or if I need to go outside. I just think that everything has been so shaken, the whole world has been shaken by COVID, that another aspect of my life that I love school, is now out of my control again. And that makes me very uncomfortable at the thought, because I like to have a schedule and things to be in control, and now it's not.
It seems though that, at least the recent conversations I've had with you, that you've picked up a good habit of getting into some journaling.
Yes.
So maybe all this time, well, we've been going through COVID for a while, but like what made you decide to do that?
It was talking to you, because every Monday I come to the gym, hop my little way through. I actually started going earlier on Monday to make sure I have time to work out. To work out and talk. I hop my way up my stairs and we talk, and you were talking about your journaling, and I've journaled before. I do like writing. And I just kind of realized the first time I was journaling was like 5 days ago. I checked when I wrote it last night in my journal. And I was writing through my journal, and I just started like crying, like just bawling. And I think it's because there's so much going on in this world, and there's so much in my personal life that's going on, that I was holding all of it in, and I just like needed to release some of it. And so I think journaling will actually be essential right now to writing about how I feel and writing about everything that is going on.
Do you ever feel like when you write that it's forced, or like I was asking you if you have any journal prompts and you said no, and it just, whatever came to mind kind of spilled out on the paper? That's something that, like, I love journaling, but sometimes I get into trouble like thinking too much, again, that like obsessive trait about what I'm gonna say, that it almost feels fictitious when I'm writing. But the times where it just pours out, dude, like,
Those are the best.
well, it feels amazing. I feel like there's a sense of relief after that. Like, so you probably have that too, is if you've lived your life kind of storing some things up, it just clears up your headspace a little bit.
Yeah, And so, how do I say this? I think, for my brain, I have always been a very, I really like the arts of like literature and writing, and I've always loved reading and writing. And so especially when I'm reading, like right now I'm reading It by Stephen King, I notice that my journaling is shaped by the way of what I'm reading. So for example, when I read Dracula, my English and my writing is much more, 1800s-esque. Like I have a lot of perhapses or like just like things, like patterns that the authors have. So I noticed that I put that in my writing. And so for example with It, it's a horror book, but I've noticed that I kind of just write in his style. And I think it's because, I don't know, I feel like I always have something to think and talk about. So I don't know, I bet I will run out of things. But I just kind of like write and things come out. I mean, I've always been like that though. Even like writing papers, I can get like 5 pages out in a paper in like a few hours if I really need to. I just start typing and I like word vomit is how I describe it. Yeah. Not everyone can do that, I know that, and I think I'm lucky that I'm able to do that, but I also think it is inherently a curse because I can think so much that like when I am, like I start crying or whatever, but in the meantime, like I do suffer with depression and disassociation, and so in the meantime of not writing or reading, I shut down and I don't feel anything. And I think it's a protective measure that my brain uses to protect me from my own thoughts, which sounds strange, but like I have a lot of thoughts.
Well, and I think the distinction with people that disassociate is, they're very creative people like we had talked about earlier, but it is hard for them to really process the thoughts and what the thoughts mean. Why do they exist? Why are they coming through? It's like you freak out about your thoughts. That's always me. It's like panic mode over something that went on in my head when really it's like, dude, it's just a fucking thought.
Yeah.
That's what it is at the end of the day.
I think that our brains just can't process that sometimes. I think that we think in reality, how do I say this? So like thousands of years ago when we were, I mean, I know some people don't believe in cavemen, but let's say we were cavemen, our thoughts were reality and literal because we had to think literally. Like think about what we were doing, this and that and this. And now that we have said, like we have lives of, we have enough food, water, blah, 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 we have time to actually think and think deeply, and I don't know if we're prepared for that. I don't think I am, because as we were talking about before, as a child, as a 6-year-old child, I would lay in bed at night terrified of the thought of impending nuclear warfare, which is strange, because I was 6.
Yeah.
So I think some people just think so deeply that it is harmful.
Yeah, because you get too far away from your center, and then everything that is actually reality doesn't feel like reality because you've experienced this whole other reality that's in your head.
Yes.
But, and like I think we were saying earlier, sometimes when I finally find a moment of being present in a conversation or whatever, I almost kind of freak out because I'm not used to being present. I'm used to, like you, like I'm a very imaginative guy, very creative, that a lot of my childhood was that. I mean, it was built on imagination, and I think that is a beautiful place for creativity. That's why people are creative, but at the same time, like, you can make this whole other reality that isn't the case, and then that's where you get yourself into trouble because, you're freaking out about shit that doesn't even exist. You're worrying about things that haven't even happened yet.
Why am I worrying about, like, nukes going off? I mean, that is something to be worried about, I would say, but I would say that when people are very creative and imaginative, I daydream a lot. I'd say a good portion of the time I'm daydreaming. When I drive up to Ankeny at school, I daydream.
What do you daydream about?
Realities that aren't reality, if that makes sense. If I just watch, and I know this sounds weird because I'm 20, but if I just watch like Harry Potter or something, I daydream about being in that reality. Or like, sounds stupid, but like Pokemon. Just stupid things that I'm...
Being a Pokemon?
I'm like, no, trainer.
Oh, Ash? Or what's your favorite? I don't remember the names.
The girl who had the Piplup. That was me.
Okay. Pokemon was the shit. Did you ever play Pokemon Go?
No.
What?
I tried and I deleted it off my phone because my phone was too slow. Not my fault. I actually was not allowed to play Pokemon or watch it as a child. I did get through that, but because it had evolution in it.
Oh, right. I remember you telling me about that.
Catholic schools do not agree with evolution.
I thought that was like one of the coolest parts of Pokemon is that you start at the base level of like fucking Squirtle, and then you get
cute though.
You get to what's the big dude?
Blastoise.
Blastoise.
He's like, I don't know, but that's the thing. Is like I live in these realities that I don't actually live in. So like, for example, let's say I'm thinking about something like, for example, I just had knee surgery, right? So I can't run, I'm not allowed to jump, I'm not allowed to do a lot of things. So like when I'm at the gym or like right before or after, I'm in this reality of like, oh, I can squat and I can squat all this weight and this and that. And it's just a reality that I wish I could be in, but I can't. I think it's escapism. I think it's a form of escapism in my brain because sometimes my reality is not what I want it to be. And so I think that other ideals are better. I mean, obviously, the world would be much better if you had like a piplup sitting next to you 24/7. But I just have my cat, which is fine. But I think that I've done that since I was a child, though, and I know that a lot of people aren't that creative. Not creative is not the word, but that like daydream-esque. Like I just like, for example, when I would walk through the hallways of school, even in high school, I would think as if I was in a book. Like I would write the book in my head, like she's walking down with her long brown hair, blah blah blah. And that's how I live my life. That's how I think. I think like that, and I think it's unique. I don't think everyone thinks like that, but I don't know. I think that's bringing that all back. I think that is why I can write so easily. Is because I'm always in these realities. I'm always thinking. I always have these ideas. I mean, as a child, before like the internet was as big as it was, I'd sit on a notepad and I would write stories like on like your computer. You remember when the computers were like bulky and I would write in the notepad and like write these fantasies of everything. And I think that I don't know. I think it's a good thing, but I also think it's harmful now that I'm an adult and I have to live with reality and I have to deal with the reality of relationships because I expect so much from so many people because I have this like thing in my head that when it doesn't happen, I have to realize that it is my fault that I'm expecting so much of an individual.
Yeah. You gotta learn to control it, but at the same time, you don't want to suppress that side of you because creative people, they don't, and I'm speaking about myself too, is like if I'm not creating or making up stuff that's meaningful to me, life is pretty much dead weight. You feel like a stick figure just walking around. So creative people got to do creative things. And
yes.
I was going to say, like, if you don't end up following the field that you're going into right now, you should definitely be an author because you would write some, even just like shit about yourself. Like, because I think you're so honest with yourself as I am to myself. Which
took a lot to get there.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about really anything because you always tell the truth, but sometimes I'm too honest with people and I share too much information that I probably shouldn't.
Yes,
which can then hurt me.
And people like think you're weird or blah blah blah. As a child, I had a problem with that. I would talk so much and be so brutally honest, and like that I had to learn to not do that because people would think I was weird.
Or they would expose you later on.
Make fun of you.
Yeah,
and I think that. It's a good thing, but I also would say it's a curse. I do appreciate you saying that about being an author. I actually, in high school, I thought I was going to be an English major. So.
That might be your calling.
We'll see.
Especially since you do so well with journaling.
I like it, but I love science. It's the thing. I enjoy science quite a bit. But I think that when I think about a career, I think a lot of people, like, they want this dream career, and I think that's fine. And they want this idea, like, I want to make money, and I want to have a wonderful career, and I want to love my job, I want to love every aspect of it, I want to control it, this and that, and this and that, and that's wonderful. But something I've had to come into terms with is that in my reality, what I would like is a nice, stable job that I do enjoy, and I want to go into work and enjoy it and like the subject, and maybe even like help people or help lives or advance something, but my reality is outside of my job. I want a good life. I want an interesting life. I want to pursue hobbies. I want to hopefully be running again soon and be healthy and energetic and, once I'm not so busy, make meaningful relationships with my friends. And so to me, although I think jobs you should like them, I think that you should also just be prepared to work a job that you don't love all the time.
Yeah.
And yes, there's dream careers, but also realize in your mind that your dream career does not affect how good of a life you have if you cannot get to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what my dream career is.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like people expect you to know what you want to do at 20, at 18, at 16, at 15, 14. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You have no idea. I mean, even if you and I probably have a better understanding at this age, it still could be vastly different from what we actually pursue. I just know that with me, it's like, I want to pursue things, again, that are creative. It's very hard to monetize creativity because there's really no definition on creativity.
Yes.
Creativity is always evolving. It's always its own thing based on the individual and what they do that's creative. So people that try and pursue that, you know, it's kind of hard to get your feet off the ground. I mean, with a podcast, like I'm still trying to grow it, and I try not to get discouraged based on like, oh, like I was saying earlier, like yeah, I go check how many subscribers I have, like. You know, it's a process, and I think that the more time that you put into it is when you're going to see those results, and you may not see them like within the first 5 years. I think the people that are resilient, you know, they accomplish the things that they want to do because they always learn how to get better from their past mistakes. And I think our generation has maybe too much of a problem trying to find their dream job. Like,
dream anything.
I think our parents, I don't know. I mean, like our parents, they didn't really go for dream jobs. They kind of settled, but. I guess that's an important life lesson is that you don't really have to.
Yeah.
You should like your job, I guess, to some degree.
You shouldn't hate your life
when
you go into your job, because that would affect.
But it doesn't have to be a dream job per se.
No.
I guess it'd be great if you landed that, but.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when they have their dream jobs, you hear them say it was just like dumb luck, or you know they worked very hard, but they were so poor for all these years, and I don't know if I'd want to be so poor for all those years because to me. I don't know, I just want to, I'm not very money driven either. I'm very just like financially stable driven. I just want a good life and a good job. And I know that sounds simple to some people, but the reason I want such a simple life is because I want to be able to explore who I am. It means a lot to me to know who I am. And I've had, since I was a kid, I've never been able to fully identify who I am. And I think it's because I'm so busy. So if I just had a job that was like financially stable and, you know, I didn't work all the time and I just made enough money to like, you know, get a few nice things here and there and be able to work on myself and find out who I am, that'd be a lot more meaningful to my life than just having a job I liked. Because usually when people have jobs they like, they're all doing that job all the time, 60 hours a week, something crazy like that.
And then you realize that 40 years flies by. Yeah, and in
what's
relationships that you didn't build with people, all the things that you put off for your own interest.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Yeah, and you know, I guess our society pushes us to be so productive, and I think that's a pitfall in some ways that you should definitely work, but I don't think that we have a great grasp of the work-life balance. And like you said, working on yourself. I think there's a lot of power in that. Like, I don't know if you'll ever really truly know who you are, but I think just as you get older, and the more that you like put those things in your life, so like journaling, meditation, you're forced to face yourself when you meditate, when you journal. Like sometimes I think you can become too forceful with your journal that it's not super real, but you know, using it for the purpose to kind of see why you think the way that you do, you'll find out a lot about yourself through silence and thought.
I think sometimes another thing that people don't realize is that a lot of times when you meditate or you do journals, you'll find that you don't like yourself or aspects of yourself, and that's normal. And you know, you can try to change those things, but I think it's more appropriate to come to terms. So, you know, I don't like that I am sad all the time, like that I'm down all the time, but I have to come to terms that at the moment that's who I am and that I can work on it and I can work on who I am to have a happier life. But, you know, you can't hate yourself for what you're given.
Yeah.
You cannot hate, like I could be so mad that I had a knee surgery, right? Because it put me back. I can't run, I can't lift, I can't do a lot of things. But this is my body, and it's the only body I have. So to hate who I am and to hate what I have to do would be to hate the only life that I have. And I mean, everyone is self-loathing in a way. Not everyone, but most people are. And I think it's just important to accept, and it sounds so cheesy, but to truly accept who you are, not just like the good parts of you, not the, oh, I'm a creative thinker, or, oh, I'm good at science, but to accept that there are flaws in you. And to accept them and acknowledge them and be okay with them, because I think a lot of people don't like to talk about their flaws and be open with them.
It's not fun to think about the things that you're not doing so well, but I think silence is kind of a treatment to that, is that you have to, at some point you're going to have to work through it, because otherwise, like, you know, that's kind of how it is with traumatic experiences, PTSD. It's like you're operating based on shit that happened in the past, but that's not actually the present. And until you go forward and look at that and figure out why it happened and maybe how you could have avoided it, it's not going to get better.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, like we were saying earlier with distractions and technology and whatnot, like I'm truly getting to a place now at my own apartment where I want to meet new people, friends, girls, hopefully get a girlfriend, that'd be nice. But nobody seems, I'm not saying nobody does, but it seems that a lot of people our generation are so caught up on their image and how they portray themselves over social media and, you know, just spending so much time scrolling and instead of having like a one-on-one conversation. And it's, I think for all of us, it's pretty anxiety producing when it first starts, but like the longer that you talk, the layers of the onion of that anxiety starts to peel away. And then you can have this natural flowing conversation.
And not even the conversation or the anxiety, you can, over time, you get to know a person better based on the longer amount of conversations you had. So like, I'm sure if you look at me and like with a lot of things, you wouldn't think naturally that I'm just like who I am. I think I look different than how I act or even like what music I listen to. I don't think I look the way that I am. So when you actually talk to people and like unwrap who they are, you think there's so much, I don't know, people are so much more interesting than what social media gives off. I mean, if you want to get into social media, it's so upsetting to me because, like, even for myself, like, I am not super popular. Like, I'd be the first to admit that, which is fine. Like, I don't like a lot of attention. I don't like a lot of people to look at me. So, but even, like, when I post a picture on Instagram, I notice, I just, like, find myself checking how many times, like, how many likes I have, or, like, if I post something on my story, how many people have looked at it. And to do that is almost self-damaging because then you start getting insecure about yourself. And I think that social media inherently is meant, and I know this sounds strange, but I think it's meant to use that part of you or manipulate you to keep coming and checking, to keep looking, because humans, you know, I think because of the community aspect, we like to fit in. I think we like that, but I think social media uses that, and it's kind of gross how it uses that.
It's actually been proven. I don't know if it was through studies, but they are these apps that we can't seem to get off of. They have addictive tendencies to them. It's like that dopamine shit in your brain where the rats keep pressing the button to get the food or whatever. Like we're always just like so quick. You know, it's become almost a part of us. Like when you get a text, you get a Snapchat, like you instantly feel that vibration. You go and check your pocket.
Yeah.
So people, it's like they can't even take time away from it. I mean, dude, hell, like. Monday was the first day of classes, and my second class is the night class from 6 to 9.
Yeah.
She made us put our phones away, and I could tell that everyone was kind of anxious, including myself, when we were doing like the icebreakers and the introduction.
I hate that part.
But she's so cool because she was actually like asking us a bunch of questions, and you could just like, it's almost this feeling in the room where the anxiety starts to like fade away, and you can feel people starting to like kind of open up again and like not think about that as much. Alcohol is really good with that, you know. People pull back the mask.
You can see who someone is if they have a few drinks, but I think iceberg breakers are very hard for me. I have a class, I don't even know what time it is, but I have a class soon, and I know we're gonna have to do that. And what time is it?
It's 1:15.
Okay, that's fine. We still got like 15 more.
Which I think we need to go back to a little bit more of the school side.
Yeah, maybe we should do this another time, like the whole. I'd love to talk to you more and like not feel like I have a time constraint.
Yeah. I'll just ask you a few more questions about school, and then we can do another podcast. But I mean, this is great material.
Well, Iceburgers is about school. Iceburgers.
Iceburgers?
Iceburgers. I like my burgers. I made out of ice. Thank you. Icebreakers suck because I don't know myself, as we were just talking about. So it's very hard for me. They're like, so what are your hobbies? And I'm like, crying on the side, depression, eating food. I don't know. So I was like, I love running, which I do, but I had knee surgery, so I love running and weightlifting and reading, and those are my favorite things. But if you really got to know me, I don't think those are. I mean, I love reading and writing and lifting, but I don't think that saying your hobbies is really going to describe who you are as a person, because.
So that is exactly what this teacher did. She started off with the first question, kind of describing yourself, and everyone's like I'll just give the example of what I said. I'm like, oh, I'm creative, and I was anxious, so I was like, I'm creative, very much an extrovert. I can't remember the other thing and then I said I had a podcast, and then by the end of the conversation, she ends with, she like looks at me and she's like, okay, last question for you guys. What is everyone's favorite podcast? Because you can tell a lot about a person by going to see their podcast, the podcast that they listen to. So I'm like, well, first of all, you gotta check out Joe Rogan Experience, because he's one of the reasons why I got into this. But then I'm like, also, you should check out my podcast, Nurture the Mind.
and
then
plug yourself.
And then everybody laughed, and I'm like, that shit just feels so great by the end of it. And so, just from me saying that, she kind of clung on to that.
Yeah.
And then that's how the class ended. I was like,
I know that you like Joe Rogan. I listen to, I don't know, I listen to I think this talks about who I am because I'm very curious. I listen to And That's Why We Drink, which is a paranormal and true crime podcast. So I feel like that's right up my alley of I like true crime, I like paranormal because I like to understand how people think and why people do things. But I also listen to you don't know who Good Myth Local Morning is, do you? They have a podcast called Ear Biscuits, and it's just two 40-year-old dads talking about their life experiences.
That's cool.
It's fun.
I would tune in for that.
They're hilarious, and then
that's what's cool about podcasts is there's niches for everybody. Yes. Everybody's their own age, their own experience. And you can talk about that. You have to find that if you're gonna do podcasts or anything.
I have listened to a podcast about I don't know if you listen to specific podcasts that are only a few episodes long, but they have specific stories. So I listened to one that I think was it wasn't Dr. Death. It was, I'll have to tell you later, but it was some sort of podcast about this doctor who went around and essentially performed a bunch of botched surgeries and ruined people's lives. And then I listened to one about slavery and the things that we didn't learn in school. So I think that I listen to a lot of podcasts. As with music, I think I have a lot of genres that I like.
It's good to have diversity.
Yeah, I think some people, which is fine. I've noticed that the anxious part of me does like to stick to things. I like to listen to the same thing.
Which can then be a detriment because then you're like, oh, that feeling that I got from that song, it doesn't come back anymore because I've listened to it so many times.
Except for the Red Hot.
Except for Red Hot. All right, but getting back to school.
Yes,
so, I mean, is there anything that you would change, that you would like to see change, or I guess are you more comfortable with kind of your current status and COVID's kind of isolated you guys? You're not across DMACC. You guys are not in person at all.
No, I have labs in person.
But I'm saying the student population as a whole, are they doing in-person classes?
Some of them. I think there's 500 classes roughly that are doing that, which is not a lot for DMACC. DMACC's very big. This is going to sound so stupid and childish, but I just wish COVID wasn't a thing. And I think that...
I think a lot of people would agree with you on that.
I think there's a lot of fear-mongering going around. I think there's a lot of, I just think that there's a lot of checkers, or chess, there's a lot of pieces that are being played, and I think...
That's why it's hard to get the full objective truth on the situation.
I just want the data, and I feel like I can't just get the data, because I like science, I like to look at things. I think, I took microbiology, which is about biology on a microscopic level, and we talked about pandemics and endemics and things like that, and I was fascinated with the idea of that. But I think that because of the world we're in, everything is politics and blah 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 blah, whatever.
It's we had a pandemic, but then it's there's all this other muck that's under it, you know. So then it's how do we get to the actual core of what's happening? This thing happened, but there's all these other elements and throwing around, how it's caused, what type of people get it.
Why is a virus being politicized? I mean, that bothers me. As I said earlier when we were talking just by ourselves, I don't really like politics most of the time because I think that they're inherently, greedy and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So I just want the facts, and I think that that's not going to happen, but I just want it. I think everyone's saying this, I just want to be over, blah, 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 and I know that it probably won't be for quite a long time, but I just want to be able to go back to school like normal, because I think normality is what people like, but I don't think it will be for quite a while.
It'll be new, because it's the same thing that happened with 9/11, is it changed the way that we view things, procedures, laws, all those sorts of things. So it'll change. I mean, we might get back to, quote unquote, the normal that we were experiencing before, but I don't know. And it's, I graduate, I'm supposed to graduate in May.
We're graduating too.
Very soon, exactly.
I'm graduating in May as well.
It's a weird time to finish this way from every other year prior. And I took a year and a half off. It's so crazy how the journey that I've taken set me up in this situation. If I didn't take the year and a half off, I would have graduated before the pandemic.
But I think it was worth it for your mental health.
Oh yeah.
Where you were at to take it off. I kind of wish I took it off. I'm not going to now because I just want to move out and establish myself. But I it's going to be strange to graduate amidst a pandemic, because I'm sure the remains of it will still be quite present when we graduate. And I think that unfortunately, although we want normality and we want everything to go back to normal and everything to be the way it is, I don't think it will be, and I don't think it ever will be, because the world is ever changing, and normality is only a concept of what we have at the time.
Yeah, it's just how you look at the news too. Is like with the COVID thing, it's rapidly evolving. I mean, it was more so like at the beginning of the pandemic, it was changing every day,
Yes.
2 times a day, and now it's still like every 4 or 5 days. So again, like I'm not saying that none of that is the truth, but it's very hard to keep up with. Like
Yes.
one of the class that I'm actually doing this for, we take current event quizzes, and so we have to be up to date with the media. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can handle that.
That's one thing that will give me anxiety is the media, because I think inherently, especially when COVID first started coming around, like January, February, March, the fear mongering was real. Like I literally think that if they use that fear mongering right now instead of then, everyone would be quarantining now instead of then. So I think that it's just so scary, and it wasn't presented in a way that was just like science. And I hate that, because I don't want emotions to get in the way of the data, because inherently we're already going to add our own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So why give us fear? Why give us these scary videos of like places, different hospitals and stuff? And I know some people will be like, we have to be scared, we have to do this, we have to do that, we need to protect everyone. I just think that the media was very suspicious, at least in the first beginning, because I just think that instantly that's all they talked about, that's all they did, nothing else was talked about. And I mean, for example, Black Lives Matter movement, like that's still going on, but the media is going straight back to the coronavirus and the elections, because in their minds it does not matter anymore, because it's not new news. It's not news. I don't know if you noticed this, but news is inherently always bad. For
the most part, yeah.
For most places.
For the most part.
Usually, like local news will like sprinkle in some good and happy, but like CNN or like Fox News or any of those big media outlets, it's usually focused on the bad, and I think that's because that's what people eat up instead of the good.
Yeah, well, because they want to get clicks. They want people to view their content. So why the hell else would you post about happy shit? But it's like, dude, like especially in this time right now, we need that. We need sprinkles of seasoning of positivity.
You just like chuck a bunch of sprinkles at me.
Yeah, whatever that meme is, that dude that's like seasoning his meat. Yeah.
But like I like sprinkles, like rainbow sprinkles.
Yeah.
Like it's what I need, but I don't. That's the thing. I think school is going to suck. Is the most simple, easy way I can say is it's not going to be fun, and we're going to have to suck it up, which is what our parents like to say, which I don't think you should. You should go to a therapist. You need to go to a therapist or deal with whatever you need to deal with. I just don't think I'm going to have fun my last 2 semesters, because I'm going to be inherently worried about, for example, I can't miss more than 3 labs. So if I got COVID-19, let's say, I would have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, and that would be at least a lab or 2 missed from each class. And that puts my grade behind, and then I like A's, that's the thing that I'm worried about.
So I guess it depends on your major,
Yes.
You're required to be in person for some things. I have a comm major. We could easily put this shit online, and I'll be fine.
The state mandated that we go to labs.
But that's the thing that I really wanted to change going back to Simpson, is to meet people. I was going to join a club last semester, but then I never got the chance to. And now they still have clubs, but there's no meetings. It's virtually, so it's like, what's the point? You want the connection of meeting people, and oftentimes I'm on campus and I see that Simpson students, maybe I should have lived on campus, but they've already kind of created a group, so it's really hard to
break into it.
Introduce yourself, because they've already had that time to establish. I'm not even gonna call it a clique. I wouldn't call it a clique. Maybe you have like more of the jocks and the music people over here, the delinquents, but it's like, where do you fit in with all that, and how do you?
I never fit in. I don't know about you.
Did you ever want that with going to DMACC? Did you want to meet people? Was that your mission?
I mean, I like making friends. Like I made a few friends on campus. I mean, I don't really. To me, DMACC is just getting an education so I can work. But in high school, in middle school, oh my god, I would have done anything to be in that popular group. I tried so hard in middle school to fit in, but I never could fit in because I'm different. Like I just think that that's the thing I had to accept about myself, is that I am different than most people. I am not. Sometimes I don't pick up on what other people want, or I have a very hard time with drama. I never liked it, so I just have such a hard time connecting with people, because people expect so much out of you, and especially through high school, I could not give that, and I could not reciprocate that at all. I just didn't have the energy to. But especially in middle school, all I wanted to be was sit like, sounds so stupid, but as a middle schooler, you know, you went to the middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember like that huge table? Like there'd always be like 15 popular, at least for my class, 15 popular kids sitting around it.
Are you talking about in the lunchroom?
Yes.
Okay.
And all I wanted to do was to fit in with those kids and to be a part of it. And now that I'm older, this sounds crazy, but I just don't give a crap. Like I couldn't care less about fitting in because I think that fitting in is so incredibly boring.
Yeah, well, I think that that's where it's cool to stick out like a sore thumb, or like the people that, you know, are different, is like you don't blend in with the normal crowd. I don't know, everything's a double-edged sword. Like that can make you feel super lonely at times too. But I think that, like, you know, you're dating Jacob, you guys have a great relationship, and then the very few friends that you do have, you know, I think you probably feel more connected to them than having like a bunch of friends but you barely even know them.
Yes.
So that's the cool thing, is like I can always rely on my friends even if we don't see each other all the time. Like
they're always there.
Yeah.
And it's a comforting feeling. I don't know if you've taken the Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah.
I am a mediator, and so one of the things about our friendships is that we don't have a lot of friendships, but we want to deeply connect with our friends. It's very important for us to have it's very important, especially to me, to have a group of friends, right? But I'm all connected with them instead of having a bunch of acquaintances that I barely know. That doesn't mean very much to me. I think that's because of who I am. I want to get to know myself, so of course I want to get to know my friends.
You think this is also, again, something with society and social media, is that we find like our values are kind of in a fucked up place, that a lot of people, you know, get in cliques and have a bunch of friends, but it's not actually meaningful to them. And whereas us, you know, we kind of struggle. It's like we want to go out, we want to say hey, we want to meet them, but we're like, I don't know what to do. But then the few friends that I do have, like I said, Dakota, he lives up in Ames, and
Yeah.
I can always count on him.
Which is really important.
No matter what happens, where we're at in life, like even if we're in different places and we don't talk as much, we always come back at some point.
Yes.
You don't have that bro talk.
Yeah. It's natural
Yeah.
progression back to that. I don't know, I mean, sure, when I was a kid, if we want to go back to that, when Facebook was around, I had Facebook when I was 12, right? And I noticed all these popular friends, or like even just friends, they had like over 1,000 friends on Facebook, and you want to achieve that, but then like in real life, you're like, you would never be able to know 1,000 people. I would rather know like 10 of my closest friends and like just have such a deep, meaningful connection with them that like nothing could break it, or they just know me. Because I think to know me is to understand me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at me and you see me surface deep, you're just like, that girl likes to talk about science and stuff like that. She doesn't really have that much to her, but when you look at someone, like anyone, when you get to know them deeply, you just find so many fascinating things about them. And I think that's why I don't care that much about making a lot of friends at DMACC, because I don't really want to. I want to get to know my friends that I have, and then maybe make a few friends on the side. Like I met a few friends at DMACC that I really liked when I was in class with them, but I just never had the energy or like want to text them past class, which is bad. I should do it, but here we be.
Yeah, I think it's just something you have to fight through. Like,
Yeah.
I've made friends in college, but none of them really lasted, which is sad, because
Yeah.
you know, that's what they talk about, is like the college experience and whatnot. Which again, if it's gonna look really weird, the college experience for Corona looks a lot different
I
than
feel
years
bad for the
prior.
freshmen. I do feel bad for the freshmen.
Oh yeah.
Because they're especially the ones that are going to university, they're just thrown in.
Right.
Good luck at your sorority house, sis. Like.
Yeah. Get prepared.
Yeah.
Buckle down.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like college. I love learning, and I think that's why I'm not too concerned about the college experience of going to clubs and having like a sorority house and this and that, because even if I went to a university and did all that, my main focus would be learning, because I don't know, I don't even party. Like, I don't think I like it as much. I mean, I'd rather go to, like, for example, you're having a pool party this weekend, but it's not really a party, right? It's just a few people getting together.
Yep.
I prefer that over,
Right.
like, a 100-house party.
I couldn't. My anxiety.
So much anxiety.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like going out to a bar too. Like that's
Yeah.
fun every once in a while, but like that is not a place to meet people, pick up girls, dude. You
No.
can't even hear each other. I always lose my voice when I'm out at the bars. I have to fucking scream to people, and they're like, "What? What did you say?
What's your name?
Yeah, and you're like, oh. No,
I mean,
it's not my lifestyle. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that are deep and are interesting, or like, let's say girls that want a relationship that are just having fun like I am, but it's really not the place to meet people.
I mean, I haven't been to a bar because I'm 20, so
Yeah,
I don't
still
really
young.
know. I mean, Jacob and I very fortunately met in high school, so I don't have to really deal with the things that I think a lot of my friends have to deal with, but I'm always very empathetic and sympathetic because I think that Jacob and I got lucky. Like, I'd be the first to say, boy, did I get lucky with the boy that I'm dating, because I somehow managed to find someone who is empathetic and sympathetic and kind and, like, doesn't judge me for my mental illnesses. Like, I don't think I think a lot of guys
understands it. Again, to be understood is, it
Yes.
makes you feel, accepted and wanted.
I don't have to sit in the car and talk all the time. Like, he just understands that my silence is for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, but I also think that meaningful connections like that are not as, like, I don't know, I just don't think, I think social media has ruined it, like with Tinder and Bumblebee. Is that one? I don't know.
Bumble, yeah,
Bumblebee.
where the girl gets a hold of you first, yeah. No, they don't work. I've tried them both.
Yeah.
Actually, but see, like, I know a few people that ended up meeting their spouse.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe it's the stroke of luck. I don't know. I mean, every time I've gone to it, it's never worked. So I'm still young, though. I mean,
You're fair. You know, I mean, the thing is when people go, oh, you're so lucky, I'm like, don't worry about it. I just found my person early on.
I think it's like right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think it can happen. It's just like when and where, and maybe I need to put myself in a position where it will happen. I don't know. But it is 1:30. I'm just gonna ask you one more question about school.
Yes.
I mean, what are you looking forward to for this year and on your way to graduation, and what are you not looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to learning because I love science, I love learning. I'm taking genetics this semester and I love the science study of genes. I mean, I'm taking genetics, Gen Chem 2, Gen Bio 2. So I'm just taking science classes. So I'm excited because this is the first time I've just purely had classes that I enjoy. I'm terrified equally of doing this because I don't know how tests are going to go online. I mean, for chemistry, for example, you like show your work and stuff. So I'm like, how am I supposed to show my work to get partial credit if it's online? Labs I'm terrified of because I don't like dissecting things by myself because I feel guilty. But I am very excited to graduate. I'm so excited to graduate and get started. Like with just, I mean, my life has started. My life started the second that I was born. Like before that, my life started once I was conceived. But my adult life is beginning to start.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited for that. I am nervous about my last semester. I don't know how my internships are gonna go.
I feel the same way because I have to get an internship too.
We're struggling.
I don't know. Yeah. No, it's an interesting time to be a student. Like we're gonna tell our kids like, hey, this is what 2020 was like.
Hey, 2020 sucked.
It took us such a different turn.
We had a derecho and we were in a drought and everything's on fire and the world's a pandemic and the world is not my oyster right now. But I will forever try to be positive, although it's harder to say. I think being positive is the only thing that can really get you through. I'm going to try to journal more, journal about my frustrations. I write, usually I'm not a very organized person. I'm very much just remember my due dates and study, and that's all I do. But I'm gonna write down my planner, my schedule, like you suggested, because I think it's a good idea.
To start.
Yeah, it is. And just like trying to be on top of it as much as I can. And I think I am nervous because, as I said before, I do struggle with depression. I am on like a severe scale. So I am very apprehensive about how I'm going to be when I'm at home because that's the place where I dissociate the most. It's the place where I am there to just lay down and not move. But I think I set up a little desk area. I have my record player. I have like my cat has a cat bed right next to me, so she can sit next to me. So because she's very helpful when I get out of it to just like feel her fur. So I think just like I don't know. I'm terrified.
I think just a good way to close this is I think it starts with the individual. The world is a weird place. It's scary, but when the individual takes care of the problems that they have and decides to change that on purpose, other people see that and then they gravitate towards you and then they kind of think like, hey, look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's something good about that. But then they want to change themselves. You can't, politics, all this shit, like you can't go out and change the world. It starts with you. Yeah. And people see that and then they want to change themselves. It's always with the individual.
It's helpful too to have friends like you to just like talk to and like have somebody understand how I feel, especially because you're also a college student right now. I can be like, this sucks, but at least I have a few people to relate to, and I am going to actively, at least especially with Jessie, just try to study together so I'm not alone, maybe in a new environment, because sometimes I think it's better to study with people. I mean, I've been friends with Jessie for a few years now, and we took microbiome together, and we would study together, and that's very helpful. Instead of studying by yourself and just sitting and looking at like a piece of paper and you're just like, God, this sucks.
Yeah.
So that's helpful too.
Yeah, you can bounce ideas off of each other, and if you're not understanding something, they could,
Be
try and
helpful.
help. Yeah.
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 But
All right. Well, we'll have to do like a part 2 podcast,
part 2.
and it'll probably be like 5 hours. So.
Sorry, I talk a lot. We talk a lot.
We do talk a lot. All right, Mikaela. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Goodbye.